Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
I feel pretty and witty and gay, and I pity any girl who isn't me today.
La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show for 3rd of June. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Stuart.
And we're going to be
it like that. Sorry.
Yeah, and we're going to be with you hopefully live and through to the next sort of hour and a half or so to go through the latest cinema releases, some DVD releases. In this half of the show, we've got cinema releases, the UK box office top 10, and some news. So if you're listening to us live chat, as I can see, Booger is already. Hi, Booger. Join him and us in the chat in the bottom right hand corner of the Spreaker window. Just get that little chat icon you'll see to join us there and give us some feedback while we're going through the show. So let's go on to this week's news. Do you want to start that?
No. I really do need to tell people what we're actually reviewing.
That would be useful, yes. I was trying to think. It's been weeks since I presented the first half of the show, and I'm just completely screwing it up.
Yeah.
So in this half of the show, Stuart, what are we reviewing?
We are reviewing non-vampire film Byzantium, thriller The Purge, a British thriller called Blood, and a charming French film called Populaire about typing. Yeah.
As bizarre as it sounds, yes. I'm just going to mention as well, because I have got it written down here, I forgot to mention the opening scene, the opening credits of the show. They had a clip from Anger Management, which, if you're wondering why of all films I picked that, because it was released this week, 10 years ago today in the UK, so that's a little bit of history there for you. But we've got those films coming up, but let's go into the movie news this time. Is that right now? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Before I do, also, Booger, there is no Star Wars news this week. If you want Star Wars stuff, tune into a podcast called The Empire Strikes Back. It's all about Star Wars. That'll give you your weekly dose of Star Wars, even though you keep asking it every single week, and we failed to deliver. Alright, news from me. According to a report from Yahoo, Penelope Cruz is set to play the next Bond girl in the 24th film in the series, and Sam Mendes will also return to direct. Yahoo also stating that the film will start to shoot next summer, despite Mendes' busy schedule with the stage version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If the report that Cruz will play the next Bond girl is true, then she'll be the oldest actress to play her in that role at the age of 40. Honor Blackman was 33 when she played it, and she was the oldest then.
I question this being valid or not, or just rumour, because it's that early now. They can't really have a proper story. They can't have a script. So are they going to hire someone and then write a role for her? Is it? I don't see them doing that. I think they'll have to get some kind of a story or something in place first to know that they want an actress who is from. Is she from Colombia originally? I think, isn't she?
Yeah, somewhere like that. Yeah.
Colombia or Mexico or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but someone who is that ethnic and maybe that language, speaking other languages, but they've got nothing at this point I can think of, unless they've got something already, but I'll be surprised.
They've got maybe like vague ideas on what kind of character she could play, because seeing that the film will start to shoot next summer, they might have one, like you said, they might have one or two ideas, but considering that the rumours are being floating around it who's going to take up the directing chair, and now they're saying that Sam Mendes is definitely going to return.
I mean, maybe that whole thing was Sam Mendes saying, no, I'm not going to do it, so he could then negotiate and push more, to get more from them.
Maybe. Next piece of news, according to The Wrap, Mila Jovovich is in talks to play a role in Expendables 3. Jackie Chan, Nicolas Cage and Wesley Snipes are also in talks to play a role in the movie. The film will be directed by Patrick Hughes and will start shooting this autumn for a 2014 release date.
I don't have any problem with the Expendables films. I like them for what they are, which is just dumb, stupid 80s style action films. and they're an homage to that 80s dumb action films genre, which I enjoy. I go into them knowing that, I go into them expecting that, I go into them and I get that. So I don't have a problem with this. You, on the other hand, I imagine are kind of like, why, or something like that.
No, I'll give you. To be honest, I'm reviewing Bullet to the Head in the DVD and Blu-ray section. I actually liked Expendables 2 more than Bullet to the Head, so that does say a lot. I didn't like the first one that much because I felt like they didn't do very much with it. I felt the second one they did too much with it. So it's like it was just a major cheese fest. Yeah, there was a few scenes in the film, because I've always said that there were a few scenes in the film that I did actually quite like, but the rest of the film was just throwaway rubbish. Mila Jovovich cast as hopefully one of the main actresses in the film, and so it's like a leading character role, and he's thinking more about adding females into the cast as well as just males. That might make it a bit more interesting.
Well, there was supposed to be that females Expendables film getting off the ground, wasn't there? I wonder if this possibly is going to be a thing, is going to be set in the same world or not, and if they're maybe going to have her appear and do a cameo or something, and then she appears in that one or something. That I could see that happening.
Yeah, I know Mila Jovovich can't act, but she's.
I think she can act compared to a lot of actresses that are working in films now. Not to say just actresses, actors as well. She can act the pants off of quite a few actors that are out there. So I don't think she's that bad an actress.
If you look at other actresses in the same that are doing exactly the same kind of films as Mila Jovovich, I think Jovovich has actually done better than a lot of them. You look at, I know Gina Carano, she's not an actress. She's an ex-wrestler, isn't she? Or
she's an ex-MMA, yeah, I think it is.
She's an ex-fighter, but they always seem to bring those in. At least she can do a few of those things. Yeah, not exactly multi-pass.
I have no problem with the Fifth Element. Leave the Fifth Element alone.
Yeah, I really like the Fifth Element myself as well. And final piece of news from me, Benicio del Toro is the latest big actor to be casting Guardians of the Galaxy in a leading role. However, it's unknown what that role is, because they're keeping tight-lipped from most of the roles anyway. According to Deadline, Del Toro has also signed a contract similar to Samuel Jackson's, in that he will appear in multiple films. Del Toro has now joined a cast that includes Chris Pratt, Glenn Close, Karen Gillian, who was just announced earlier on last week, Zoe Saldana, who's busy signing up the contract now, Lee Pearce, Michael Rooker, John C. Reilly, Ophelia Lovibond, which I love that name, and Dave Bautista.
She should be the next Bond girl.
Yep.
No, I'm glad to hear about these people getting cast in this. I am worried, though, considering that the problem with a lot of Marvel films have been in the past, when there's too many characters and too little screen time for them, there is starting to be now a humongous number of actors and characters, plus whoever. You can't imagine everyone big is playing a role. It's got to be small actors in this as well that we've never heard of before, or little known in roles as well. Which means that, on average, this film is likely to have between 12 and 15 characters that are appearing at some point.
More characters than a Steven Soderbergh film.
Yeah, that concerns me. No, more characters than A-class actors in a Steven Soderbergh
on movie 43.
Oh, don't start. No, I'm not sullying this week with that. My couple pieces of news I've got. Disney has hired directors, and I'm going to butcher these, I'm sure. Joaquin Roning and Espen Sandberg. I don't know if that's right or not. Hopefully they are. Who directed last year's Oscar-nominated foreign language movie Kon-Tiki to direct, are you ready for this? Pirates of the Caribbean 5. As long as all deals are signed and the project doesn't fall through, film's expected to start at the end of this year, with Johnny Depp potentially returning as Captain Jack Sparrow.
No more Captain Jack Sparrow. Just start a whole different trilogy of Pirates films instead of just using the Jack Sparrow character.
No, I'll tell you what I need to do. The problem, because Pirates of the Caribbean 4 had everything that all the other Pirates films have had, apart from Gore Verbinski directing it. Was it Gore Verbinski?
Yeah, Gore Verbinski, yeah.
And had all the elements that it needed. It didn't have him. It was Rob Cohen, who's not necessarily the best director around there at the moment. But the one thing that it did differently was that it took Jack Sparrow from the background, who's a background supporting character, big as life as he is, and they made him the main character. And he doesn't work as a main character. He is a supporting character at best. That's
why That's why they should start off from scratch then instead of using Jack Sparrow.
Well, no, I don't. I'm all fine with them. I like. He is the Pirates of the Caribbean legacy. I just don't want him the main character. Have other people be the main character, and him be the supporting character that helps him along. I think that will bring back what works in the, and because I really like the first three Pirates of the Caribbean films. I admit they're not great. They're big blockbuster dumb popcorn films, and these can be fun, and they're fun. My other piece of news is that Michael Green, screenwriter of the Green Lantern movie, is in negotiations to rewrite the Blade Runner sequel, which will be directed by Ridley Scott. And there's a script already written by Hampton Fancher. I'm getting these names that are just tongue twisters tonight. Who originally wrote the first Blade Runner movie. His script has been around for a little while, but there's apparently Michael Green been brought on now to update it and do some reworking of it so that a sequel can be made. Yeah.
Exactly. No thanks. I just didn't like the Green Lantern anyway, so I don't know what he can bring to Blade Runner.
Yeah, I mean, I like Green Lantern. I thought it was very far out there for a Blade Runner ideas. I don't know how Blade Runner sequel is going to work. I'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to have to leave it. Box office top 10. Starting at number 10 with Oz the Great and Powerful.
It's only crept in the box office top 10 because it's a film, again, which managed to take £48,000 this week. It's been in the top 15 for about 15 weeks now.
Yeah.
A few kids wanted to go and see it while they were off on summer holiday. While they were off on holidays, sorry.
Number 9 is Mud, which I know you still haven't seen. And
Can't see it because no cinema around me is showing it.
Yeah, it's a very limited release, but it has started opening up. I mean, it was in the box office 2 weeks ago at number 7. Then last week it went to number 6. Now it's at number 9 because it is starting to get dumped from cinemas because it's now starting to see less and less people going. But it's seriously one of the best films I've seen. I think possibly my favourite film of the year so far. And absolutely brilliantly written. It is kind of like Stand By Me, which is why I think you'll like it when you get around to seeing it, you get a chance. And Matthew McConaughey, again, it's his third film in a row, and he's been absolutely fantastic. And number 8 is All Stars in 3D.
Yeah, throwaway fluff. It's a kids' film that takes the street dance thing and dumbs it down for a U audience. Just a group of kids who want to save their school by putting on a dance contest. If that sounds like your cup of tea, then why not go to see it? Because it's the last week it's going to be in the chart anyway. It's
like Simon Cowell the early years, isn't it? Horrible sounding thing.
Yeah.
Number 7, new entry for The Moth Diaries.
Which I'm surprised that it got in the top 10, to be honest. It's one of those films where I probably would have expected to take around about 50,000. So even if it took that, it would have gotten in at the bottom end of the chart. It's a good film. It has a few interesting ideas. Lily Cole is really scary to watch. She has this sort of like doll-like face and any kind of emotion, especially the character that she plays in The Moth Diaries. She's this really weird character who lacks emotion but has evil presence, and she just embodies that brilliantly. It lacks on a lot of things. It lacks on scares. It lacks on payoff. It lacks on a decent script, a decent story, but it's not too bad for what it is.
I thought it was a bit fairly sort of plodding along as well. I didn't find there was a long periods in between it where nothing really happened, and not even like it was setting up anything, which is the weird thing with it. Number 6, Iron Man 3, now the fifth most profitable film of all time.
Yep. The fifth most profitable film. It was predicted that it was going to take around about 40 million before it leaves the UK box office. I don't see that. 606,000 this week. I don't think it'll get to the 40 million mark.
No, I mean, I think it's just under 35 million. I think it will get closer to 40 than 35 because it's still got to time as it exits, and I think it's still doing business. But yeah, I don't think it's going to do any higher than that. Number 5, Star Trek Into Darkness.
And Slater has just said that he loved Iron Man 3 because I know he just recently went to see it. Star Trek Into Darkness, I really enjoyed it. I went to see it in a midnight screen, and it is J.J. Abrams slightly dumbing down the Star Trek series for new people to the series just to bring them on board to say, yeah, Star Trek isn't all for geeks now. It's brash. It's what a summer blockbuster should actually be. It does fall a bit flat with the character of Bones because I think he's a bit one-dimensional now. Well, one-dimensional in that film, but I still really enjoyed it.
I'm surprised, but I think it's dropped down a lot more than they're expecting. Than I thought it was going to hang around a bit more in the top sort of 3 that it has.
But it's taken just under 2 million though, so that's 2 million at number 5.
That's true. Well, it's only just been beaten out by about 30,000 by a number 4 movie, The Great Gatsby. Which, have you seen this yet?
Nope.
No. I know you do not like 3D. I'm saying this, if you get a chance to see this at the cinema before the DVD release, see it in 3D if you can. I've only seen it in 2D. I do want to see it again in 3D. I think it's really well written. I think it's really well acted. Leonardo DiCaprio is fantastic in it. Tobey Maguire is not bad in it. People have slated his performance in it, but I didn't have a problem with him. I thought he's not the best thing about it, but he's not the worst thing about it. And Joe Edgerton is absolutely fantastic in it. He's very sort of sharp in it. And the look of it, the style of it, everything is pure Baz Luhrmann. It has that problem with Baz Luhrmann where he mixes modern music with 1920s aesthetics and setting, which is a thing that puts me off, but not as much as it has in his other films. And I think that anyone who's dubious about seeing a Baz Luhrmann film should see this, because it's not one of his all musical things, all musical numbers break out. It's actually a good drama with that musical sort of gloss over it. Number 3, new entry for Epic.
Yeah, a new entry for Epic. You really screwed that up a bit, didn't you? Yeah.
Let me ask you though, from what I'm hearing, I haven't seen this. From what I'm hearing, was my tongue twister there more entertaining than the whole of this film?
Pretty much. It shouldn't have been called Epic 3D. It should have been called Dull 3D. I don't think it would have sold very well if it was called Dull 3D. But it's Fern Gully, but worse than Fern Gully. I like Fern Gully. This is just a rip-off of that film. It's
without
nice
Robin
to
Williams.
Yeah, it's nice to look at, but that's all that can be said about Epic. It's nice to look at. It just has a very empty shell. If you take kids to see it, they will be bored. A lot of kids on the screen that I went to see it at, they were bored. It just doesn't have the pizzazz and panache that you expect a company who's done films like the Ice Age series to turn out like this. It's a bit like Rio that they did. It's a nice to look at, but there's nothing else there.
Number 2, taking just over 3.5 million, is Fast and Furious 6.
Which Slater in the live chat, he said he really enjoyed Fast and Furious 6. I thought it was good, but that's all it is. It's now just becoming too aware of the fact that it is a big, huge, massive blockbuster film. Whereas the set pieces in Fast 5 were really interesting to watch and enthralling, and it had a really good storyline, and the chemistry between the characters was really well handled. In Fast 6, it just, I think all the characters were aware that now, we're a bit of a dumb blockbuster, so let's play it out like a dumb blockbuster. And if you've seen the trailer, you've seen absolutely everything. And I'm not going to mention the runway.
I think as well, it's the most convenient of the series so far. It's a worthy sequel to Fast 5, but it's not better than Fast 5. Fast 5 is the series.
Yeah, the best analogy I can think is Fast 5 is more like a good homemade curry. Fast and Furious 6 is more like the frozen meal curry. Everything's already done for you.
Stop it, you're making me hungry. Which means the number 1 film, new entry this week for The Hangover Part 3.
Yeah, I'm guessing the studios is happy that it's gone to number 1 in other territories, because in the US it's bombed. Over here it went to number 1. It's, again, like the US, this took about, I think, something like 4 million less than the last Hangover film in its opening weekend. It's not as bad as the last Hangover film, but I'm not a fan of the Hangover series at all. It's just not funny. There isn't a single joke in the movie that made me laugh at all. It's just the people in my screening were really laughing their heads off.
Except the ending, you said.
Yeah, it's just because I was laughing at the woman's reaction to the ending. Because she was going into hysterics. I thought they were going to have to bring in some oxygen or something to revive her, because it looked like she was going to fall off a seat with the mental laughter that she was doing. But
that'd be a great headline, wouldn't it? Audience member of The Hangover Part 3 needs an oxygen gas tank.
They'll slap that on the poster though.
So funny, it made me have fits of laughter.
Yeah, so funny you need oxygen to help you, but yeah, it's not funny at all. There isn't a single joke in the movie that'll make you laugh.
So there is the most successful UK box office film for the last 7 days. We're going to take a quick break now, after which we'll go straight into our first review.
We are the Holocaust.
Hello Internet, Dalek Sex here. Now I'm well used to having too much in my mouth, but frankly there's just too much to tell you about Season 4 of We Are the Holocaust on iTunes and Spreaker. For a start, we've got some old favourites like foul-mouthed tech news from Joystick Discharge and mobile gaming chat when Sex talks about apps. We've also got a few new faces, such as reviews and industry waffle from the man in the video shop, and you can join us as we stalk the midlife crisis of gaming's finest in Cliffy Tweets. And don't forget the return of Lolacourse favourites, such as Agony Uncle Newsbot and the Lolacourse Literary Masterclass, the world's most depraved book club. Follow us on Twitter at WeAre with the letter R, the Lolacourse. Tweet your real-life problems to Newsbot, Nooze, to have them answered on the show. And follow hashtag Sex Talks About Apps for mobile news. Live-ish, Sunday night, 9 o'clock, Spreaker.com, and download on iTunes.
So feel free to check out the Holocaust, and that's our good friend Bouncy Ball, who is Beal. Who is in charge of that. And you can also check out his website, lolacourse.co.uk. So, into our first review of the evening.
Yep, it's for Byzantium. It's directed by Neil Jordan, who's made two of my favourite horror films, The Company of Wolves, which I really love that movie, and Interview with a Vampire, which is just, it's a fantastic film. Apart from what Catherine Bigelow did with Near Dark, it sort of like reinvented the vampire genre. And so he has pedigree in this kind of movie. It's a small movie, and it is a vampire film of sorts, but a non-vampire film. In the film, they're known as Sucrians. They're never mentioned as vampires, so I prefer, that's why I said it's a non-vampire film. And it is a non-vampire film, even though it's got vampiric elements in it. It stars Saoirse Ronan and Gemma Arterton, as Gemma Arterton plays Clara and Saoirse Ronan plays Eleanor. They are mother and daughter. They're living in the mother, she's a stripper. She tries to do her best to get in as much money as possibly can so she can look after her daughter. They obviously hold the secret of the fact that they feed off people, they drink blood. Instead of with vampiric teeth, they actually use this thing that comes out of their fingernail, and they pierce the skin and then they drink the blood that way, so that's why it's got vampiric elements there. They have to move away from where they're living because an incident happens. They end off into a small little, town where Eleanor thinks that she's been there before, and she keeps seeing visions of nuns of sorts or orphans or whatever walking on the beach, and so they think that they've been living there before. They need to find a place to live. So Clara, obviously, with her ways, she uses what she's really good at, and she manages to find a place called Byzantium, which is this rundown motel, which is run by, now I haven't got the character's name written down, but it's a person who she meets in the street, in the sort of like the fun fair area. He owns this rundown hotel. His mother's passed away, and she decides to move in there with Eleanor. While that's happening, Eleanor befriends this boy played by Caleb Landry Jones, who plays Frank, who's got leukemia. He's just out of remission as well, and sort of like establishes a friendship, etc. But they hold a secret of the fact that they're more than 200 years old. They don't want that secret to come out. Here's a clip.
We are the Holocaust.
Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time.
Isn't it? If you don't believe a word I say, why this pretense?
Eleanor, how can you be 2 centuries old? By what miracle of science?
You see, that's the tricky thing. Because it's only over time that I can prove it. 30, maybe 40 years from now, when you're pruning roses from your wheelchair, I'll stroll by your garden gate and say, "Hello, Morag." And nothing will have changed. I am 16 forever. And you'll realize this. And it will hurt your heart. And I'll say, "May peace be with you." and I'll help you with the pain.
Why don't you do it now? I'm not strong. You could overpower me.
You're not ready.
So they obviously carry a secret. They're on the run from these people because Clara did something that she should not have done. Now, like I keep saying, this is a vampire. It's a non-vampire film with vampiric elements in it, and you have to call them Sucrians. And I'm glad that it is the case. It isn't following the kind of traits that a vampire film would follow, a typical vampire film, because it could have just got bogged down by it. The acting is brilliant. This is, in my opinion, Saoirse Ronan's best film. She's a good actress. She was terrible in The Host. I just think because the fact that the role that she had in The Host was pretty rubbish and the film itself was rubbish. She was really good in Hannah, but she's shown that she is a fantastic actress for the future. This is also Gemma Arterton's best role she's ever done as well. She plays her character of Clara brilliantly. The fact that she went and studied what strippers and lap dancers do, and even prostitutes. So she really got well into the role. So, in my opinion, Byzantium is a really intelligent vampire, non-vampire film. If you don't like horror films, then it's really good for you because it's got horror elements to it, but it's not a straight-out horror film. There aren't any scares and jumps in the movie. It's just told brilliantly. The relationship between mother and daughter is acted out fantastically throughout the film as well. You do feel for the characters. It gets more interesting when you learn the backstory of Eleanor and Clara when it goes back to 200 years previously and what actually happened to Clara, and the fact that there's a character who's played by Johnny Lee Miller who's horrible in the movie. He plays the really nasty character. But I highly recommend Byzantium. Very, very good film.
I have to agree on this as well, which is the weird thing, you and me agreeing on movies again. I characterised it after I'd seen it. I was chatting with a friend that I went and saw it with, and the thing that was really annoying is that we saw it on a Friday night, opening night, 9 o'clock showing. There was 5 of us in the screening, which is really disappointing that it's just not done that well. It should have had a lot more people in there. And it's really well acted. I characterised it as the alternative vampire movie. And I just thought it's really well acted, it's really well written, it's really well solidly directed. It's not a horror film, as like you're saying. It is more like a vampiric drama, and it's engrossing. It's a real good watch. If you've got a chance of showing somewhere near you, because it's not got a big release, go and see it if you like vampire films, because you will find something in it you like.
The thing is, just before you get on to your review for The Purge, it's not getting a really good release in the US neither. It's getting released in very limited screenings, and it's going directly to video or on demand in the US, which is annoying because it needs to be seen by a lot of people. I will be surprised. I'll be happy if it gets in the top 10, but I've got a sneaking suspicion there's a chance it might just scrape in there at the low end. I would prefer it near the top end. But the top 10 is not all about taste, it's all about bums on seats.
Yeah, that's true, unfortunately. The Purge, which is also released this week, sees a movie written and directed by James DeMonaco. It stars Ethan Hawke as James Sandin, the head of a family. We've got his wife, played by Lena Headey, and his son and his daughter, played by Max Burkholder and Adeline Kane. All live in the US, in where the world is now. It's 2022. The world has now changed because of the fact that the US, at least, has this thing where once every year, all crime is legal from a period of midnight on a particular date through to 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. And that is all crime, including attacking someone, killing people, everything. There are no emergency services. There's nothing. Nobody will come to help if there's any problems. It's basically every man for themselves. And the people are allowed to purge themselves of any sort of violence and such, which has had an effect that has meant that things like crime numbers have all gone down, killings and things the rest of the year have gone down, because people have then managed to purge themselves of these instincts, these animal instincts to kill or attack. It's all down to this thing of that James is a salesman of the security services, security things you can build. So you have a safe house, essentially. You can turn on this and it locks up your entire house, making sure that no one can get in or out. And the whole thing's all set up to when the Purge Day comes, he and his family are there. Everything seems fine, and he's all locked up with his family, while his son, the youngest person in the house, sort of questions him and his wife about the whole thing of the Purge and why they don't partake. Here's a clip.
Why don't you guys do it?
Because we don't feel the need to, Charlie. That's all.
So if you felt the need to, you would kill someone tonight?
Look, I know this is difficult to understand at your age, but tonight allows people a release for all the hatred and violence and aggression that they keep up inside them. Okay? And yes, if your mother and I were so inclined, we would participate. Because it works. You don't remember how bad it was, Charlie. The poverty, all the crime. This night saved our country.
What happens is that then shortly afterwards, a man is running along outside, and he's being chased by people. He is essentially a homeless man who have become targets of people on the night of the Purge. He's running along, and their son opens a security system to allow this man into the house where he can be hidden and protected. Unfortunately, the people that are out chasing him find out that he is in their house, and they come to the house and basically ask them, send out this man to us, let us do our purging of ourselves, otherwise we will come in, we'll get him, and we'll get you too. It all comes down to this whole thing of that you've got the question then of the morality of such a thing. If you were given a day in the year when you could go and kill people to purge yourself of violence and stuff, would you do it? What is the whole thing of it? And no. Then and then it becomes, I think, if there was no comeback from it, if you weren't punished or anything, if you killed someone in that time, no punishment, then that's the whole thing of what it poses.
Actually,
don't answer that. Don't answer.
No, I would actually probably nick somebody's car and run over a few people who I cannot stand. So maybe, okay. Possibly.
People should watch out in
not peeve me off.
So the whole thing is then that, and then it becomes later on, it changes into this whole thing where it becomes the family in the house having to then defend themselves when these people are trying to get in and attack them. It does then after that point, because the writer-director James DeMonaco, he also wrote the screenplay for the Assault on Precinct 13 remake, which also starred Ethan Hawke. So there are similarities in that regard once it gets to that point. But before that, it's quite well set up. It's quite well performed. Lena Headey is in the film. She's seen her playing in most things. I mean, a lot of people will recognise her from the Terminator series, where she played Sarah Connor. And Dredd, yes, Dredd as well. And she's very different in this. She's very much the helpless housewife sort of, and she's not a violent person. She's not a person who's ready to just go out shooting. She's freaking out and stuff, and it's very good to see her, that she has got this range of being able to do a different performance than what she's sort of been doing. It is good, but the problem it has is that it basically at the start of it, for the first 15-20 minutes of it, it's only 85 minutes long. First 15-20 minutes of it, there are lots of expositional things, and if you don't know what exposition is, basically exposition is a thing where it comes up and it's like having a big foghorn or air horn that goes every now and again when something comes up on the screen saying, pay attention to this, it will come up later. There are literally sort of moments in the first 10 minutes when it's like someone should be sitting in the cinema with an air horn just going like this every 5 minutes or every couple of minutes, just blasting it out for the audience going, watch this because it's going to come in useful later, or that's going to happen later. It's basically signposted for you what's going to happen, which means if you are a kind of person like me, you go into the film and you get to a certain point and you go, I know what's going to happen, I know what's coming. You kind of do, but then at the end it does have things where you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, not bad. So it's an okay film. If you like your violent films, it has got some violent bits in the attack later on and some sort of bloody bits. Not really excessive gore sort of things because it's only rated 15. I think they should have gone more and been a bit more gutsy with it. Literally, not sort of joking, but if they'd done it and it had been 18, I think it would have actually been more entertaining. But that said, it's a good, enjoyable slasher thriller film with a little bit of sort of Assault on Precinct 13 thrown in.
Okay, next film, Blood. It's a small little British thriller film directed by Nick Murphy. It stars Paul Bettany and Stephen Graham, who plays brothers Joe Fairburn and Chrissy Fairburn. Yep, Stephen Graham's character is actually called Chrissy. His parents must have really hated him. And it also has Brian Cox in it, who plays their father, who plays Lenny Fairburn, and a detective played by Mark Strong. And it's just a very simple premise. It's about the both cops, Joe and Chrissy, and there is this guy who ends up committing a crime. He ends up supposedly killing a girl. Keeps on saying that he's innocent. Joe then ends up interrogating him by burying him in the sand. When he finally gives in, saying that yes, he did do it, ends up killing the guy by accident because he smacks him over the head with the shovel. And it's then a lot of grief and guilt attaches itself to Joe and Chrissy's character, and it's just about them trying to come to terms with what they've done, while Mark Strong investigates what's actually gone on. That's the simple premise of Blood. It's one of those films where it's getting a DVD release next week. It's getting a cinema release now, just probably to boost up the amount of takings that it's getting, because they probably would have thought it would have just been a movie that would have passed people by because it's got such a generic title in Blood. It feels more like a TV movie. BBC Two normally show these dramas at like 9 o'clock at night, where they're like maybe 1 or 2 episodes long. They're not meant for a series. BBC Four normally do it every now and again as well. Channel 4 have a knack of doing that. It feels more like one of those kind of one-off dramas that are on for like 90 minutes. You get to know the characters. It's a full-off rounded story. This is exactly what Blood is. It's a good film for what it is, but because the fact that the scale of the film isn't as big as it needs to be for it to warrant a theatrical release, because of the type of film that it is, it loses itself because the scale isn't big enough. The acting is really good. Paul Bettany is fantastic in it. Stephen Graham, he's got a dodgy accent. He teeters between Cockney and Liverpudlian because he's from Liverpool, and so his accent teeters in between that. So you can just imagine if somebody from London had a relationship with somebody from Liverpool and they gave birth to a baby who keeps on switching accents all the time. That's what happens to Stephen Graham's character. Mark Strong is more like the throwaway actor in the movie. He's more like an and role, even though that belongs to Brian Cox. But it's not a bad film, but it's more suitable for TV.
I just an accent thing. I do that with I have a Scottish accent because I live in Scotland and I've been back and forth all my life. So
yeah, but in a film, it's really distracting because it teeters back and forth, and you're just about to get used to listening to his London accent, and then all of a sudden you hear tweaks of his Liverpoolian accent. It's really distracting.
The film I actually saw it this afternoon because I finally got a chance to see it. I wanted to see it. Populaire. It's a French movie directed by Régis Ronsard, I think is how you pronounce his name. Ronsard. It's a foreign name and I'm terrible at them, so apologies if I'm butchering that. He also had a hand in the writing of the movie. It stars Deborah Francois as Rose, a woman who is she's living in a small town with her father, who she works at her father's, just like a little sort of grocery store in the town. But one of the things he has in the store, is, amongst other bits and pieces, is a typewriter that he has in the window, and she sneaks down at night to mess around on it and learning to type on it. She then travels to the city of Normandy nearby, where she then applies for a secretarial job. She's terrible as a secretary, doesn't really know what she's doing there, but she proves to Louis, who's played by Roman Duris, that she can type, because she takes his typewriter and just basically starts typing at a mad rate that kind of puts him under this spell when he sees her typing. Although she types with just 2 fingers, not using all sort of 8 fingers on her hands, she does that so impressively and so fast that he then hires her, takes her on as secretary. Gets to a certain point a few days later, he doesn't really want to hire her anymore as a secretary, but he wants to support her and enroll her in a typing competition for the fastest typing person in the world. I should add, the movie is set in the 1950s, so it's before computers and such. It is just typewriters that people have, and the fact is that the two of them then team up with him taking her into his house and having her there sort of practicing typing all the time, training her on that and training her on being a secretary, so he can then get her ready to enter into these competitions, to enter in to be potentially the fastest typer in the world. Now, it's a bizarre thing to think that it's a drama about typing, something which is so mundane. But the thing that's really impressive in this is that not only is it quite well written, it's very well directed. The performances in it are fantastic. I've never seen Deborah Francois in anything before. I've never seen Romain Duras in anything before. The two of them are absolutely fantastic on the screen. I was completely captivated. I'm annoyed that I was in a cinema today and I was the only person in the whole screen that watched the film. And it's just, there's scenes in it which just are fantastically done. I love the way it's shot. There's little things like when it's sort of in the typing competition, you have two people typing. It's shot at one point, I thought was very well done, where it kind of like a tennis match back and forth.
Can I just interject a second? You have seen a film with Deborah Francois in.
I have.
You probably not have recognised her. You watched The Monk with Vincent Cassel in it?
Yes.
She's in that.
Oh, okay. I can't remember it that much. But I mean, the thing as well, and I haven't seen the artist yet, but Bernice Bejo.
Yep.
Yeah, she's in this as well. And the thing is, I don't know her. I don't know her, so I don't know which role. There's two potential female roles she could have played, and I don't know which one it was that she played. So I'm kind of really looking to see the artist, so I can then go, it was her. But I mean, there's no problem with any of the actresses in it. They're all good, and everyone in it is absolutely fantastic. And it's just, I was completely blown away by it, that I think this is my second favourite film this year after Mud. So if you have a chance to see it, because I almost didn't see it, it's had a very small release. I think it's had a better release than Byzantium, to be honest. But if you haven't seen it and you've got a chance to see it, definitely consider checking it out. It's a French film, so it's spoken in French, subtitled. But don't let that put you off. If you have problems with subtitles, you need to get over it, because there are some fantastic European films, and this is the best one I've seen this year.
Specifically from France. France have just upped their game over the last few years for the amount of content that they're pulling out there. Their films are of extreme high quality.
It's not just the quality, because I mean, there's a great line, and it's near the end, but I don't think this is a spoiler, because it's not a plot or anything. It's basically a guy says in it, America for business, France for love. And I think that kind of rings true American films and French films. American films are made like a business. French films are made because the person has interest in the person wants to tell this story. They put this so much of their heart and soul into the story, and that is what the director has done here. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of work, and I just absolutely loved it. It may not be to everyone's taste, but I don't think that people will be bored with it. And I mean, to take a film about typing and not have it be boring is impressive. That's it for the first part of the show. Hang around on Spreaker, refresh your page in a couple of minutes. We'll be back with some DVD and Blu-ray releases and the UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10.